So we've started getting the EB02 reveals already. Feels like there's so many sets coming out at once now. We're a little behind the Japanese now, but EB02 is going to be here, and these events are ridiculous. So these events are just going to fundamentally change how we approach deck building. And first we'll go over what they are. So there's one of these for every single colour. Every single colour has one of these. It's a 2-cost event. Activate main, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, you take a 4-cost or higher card, not character, card, this can grab events, put it in your hand, send the rest to the bottom. And they also all have trigger activate main. This is crazy. Any deck that is good but has consistency issues is immediately miles better. Any deck that likes being pretty techy, you know, something like Bonney playing a bunch of different guys that you can't search, there you go, there's your searcher. You don't need type-locked searchers. We don't need to build decks around archetypes anymore. This is genuinely really crazy, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this plays out, whether it plays out for the better or for the worst. I've seen a few people already on X and Reddit doom posting about how this is really bad for the game. I'm not convinced. I'm a big fan of consistency, right? I come from Pokemon. Every deck there is pretty consistent. You pretty much do the same thing every game. The inconsistency in Pokemon comes at the end of the game, where your opponent basically puddings you, but sends you back down to like 1 or 2 cards, and you've got to find your out to close out the game from those couple cards. But I think consistency in One Piece has always been a little lacking. Most decks are fairly consistent, you have to build them as such, right? But sometimes you just have those games where you don't find your Warriors, where you don't find your 9-cost Zoro against Nami. And these basically just fix it. Here they are, here's all the artworks if you want to take a look at these. These are not alt arts, these are the regular arts of the events, which is pretty weird. It's going to be quite bizarre opening a pack of EB02 unless all the cards are like this, and just getting like a bunch of normal cards and then these weird cards. And in your deck they can look pretty weird as well, but easily spottable, nice for your deck checking if you have anything to search your deck. So here they are, and the first major beneficiary of this I think is Enel. Enel is a deck that's not played a searcher as long as I've known it. There's no good searcher that searches for all your cards. They're all different types, right? You're just playing a yellow toolbox. And the way that you typically can make your Enel deck more consistent is by drawing more cards. Your leader effect obviously gives you an extra card here and there. Yamato and Ace give you extra lives, they then come to your hand. The 5-cost Shirahoshi is a draw 3 trash 2. Sometimes people playing other cards that draw. Derashi is creeping into lists in sets 9 and 10, which helps you with your finding your trigger cards. But these top end have never been searchable. Yamato, Katakuri, and Ace, staple in Enel, you know what they do. But now you can find them. Now you can reliably find these. And your early turns with Enel are pretty weak. Like, you're not doing anything really on 1, 2, 3, or 4. Maybe playing like the 2-cost Shirahoshi blocker, right? Other than that, you're either attacking or you're done, or you're just passing and starving. And then once you get to sort of 5, 6, 7, you're playing out some of these dudes, your Godatsu, your Luffy, your Nami. But now in those early turns, you can set up for later in the game. You can play that 2-cost event, get it out of your deck, get filtering, find one of these big dudes. Even if you then get puddinged, one less card in your deck, you're more likely to draw into the big guys again. And this is just reliable search for these big guys. You can guarantee you're going to have maybe 1 to 2 more every single game, which is crazy. And this one especially, because it has trigger activate main, is pretty good, right? Because if it comes, Enel's the trigger guy, he's the trigger guy. When you get it out of your life, it's another good trigger. It's nothing too crazy, but it's going to get you that ace you need in your next turn. It's going to get you that Yamato. And it can also get you these, right? It can get you Raigo. This is not locked to characters. This can get Raigo to just remove whatever big play your opponent just made. They played a 10-cost Kuzan, get rid of it. An 8-cost Moria, get rid of it. 9-cost Zoro, that's a scary guy. Just get rid of it. Easy. You can also get these mid-range options, so if your hand is like a whole bunch of big guys, and on your opening turn, you just play one of these events, you can get your Godatsu to remove something on curve. Really nice. You're playing against black, you need Rush Enel, fine, just grab it. It's cool. If he's in the top 4, you're winning. I think this is going to be really crazy for Enel. The deck's consistency is going to go way up. Will it make the deck fundamentally better? I'm not sure. You still have a really bad matchup into Teach. But you still have a really good matchup into a lot of the other decks. Doflamingo is pretty good. This might make your Lucci matchup a bit better, just guaranteeing you can continue to find those big dudes, especially Katakuri, to get rid of their Gecko Morias and put them in life is incredibly important in the Lucci matchup. You can't remove their Gecko Morias or, God forbid, an Isho. You're in trouble. So having extra search for that Katakuri and that Reigo to get rid of their Morias is going to be really good. Another deck that I think is going to gain a whole bunch of stuff from this is Monkey D. Luffy, Black Yellow Luffy. This deck's already pretty consistent, right? But this is just extra consistency. You're still going to play the Garp Searcher to grab all your brothers and your baby brothers. This event notably can't grab the baby brothers. But Searchable Moria. That's it. That's the tweet. Searchable Moria in Black Yellow seems crazy. When this deck draws like 3 to 4 Morias, it feels unbeatable. It truly does. And this event is just going to help you get there. There are turns in the early game, especially when your opponent's starving you, where you just got nothing to do. Like if you get this card towards the end of the game, when you're chaining Morias, yeah, it sucks, but you can just trash it with Sabo. It's no problem. You can trash it with Leader Effect. It's no big deal. This in the early game is going to make your late game that much stronger. You not only can you grab Morias, you're playing 10-cost Kuzan for the Bonney matchup. You've got extra search for that. Got extra search for 4-cost Kuzan if you need that for a particular matchup. And as a backup, you can just grab any of your big brothers. The Ace, the Sabo, or either of the Luffys. It's great. You might even see people cut down the numbers of maybe these Luffys that they're playing. Maybe to like 3. Just because you have that extra consistency now. I think this deck getting better is scary. I'm not a fan of this deck. But it's going to get better. The Searchable Moria in a deck like this especially is crazy. Next up, I've got Bonney. Bonney's always been a bit of a green toolbox. You do have good searchers, the Bonney Searcher and the Baby 5 Searcher. Both search sort of a third of your deck each. And then you've got sort of these remaining cards that are not searchable. So I've put them here. We've got the Zoro, 9-cost Zoro, great in some matchups against things like Enel, things like Nami. You really want to see this. In other matchups, it's just kind of garbage. But so now you could run feasibly 1 or 2 of these and find it fairly reliably into those matchups where you need it. Hody Jones, another one. Everyone's running Hody at 4. You could probably run Hody at 3 now, I think. So that's instantly one of your spaces for your event. Carrot, really important in the Dofi matchup. Completely unsearchable. Now, on those first couple turns, instead of playing like a Bonney Searcher and grabbing something you don't really need, you can just play this and try and find Carrot. Carrot's really good. And of course, 9-cost Shanks is the new addition to Bonney. Completely unsearchable. Really good into red Shanks. You really need to deal with those Shanks that minus everything down by 1,000 power. And this just says get rid of 1. And now you can find it reliably. I think the way that we build Bonney is going to change quite a lot, which is pretty interesting. I think it's going to become way less 4-ofs of your top end. People are going to opt for like 2 or 3 because they have this extra consistency in finding them. Will that be the best way to build Bonney? I don't know. Well, these cards have just been revealed. I've had no time to test. But I think this is really interesting for a deck like Bonney with so many unsearchable boss monsters and Carrot. It's going to be interesting to find the balance, right? Because the tap searches are still really good because they slow the game down. Your opponent has to hit them. But having a searcher that just grabs everything is great. And of course, this event can also grab your searchable stuff. Your 8-cost Kid, your 10-cost Dofi, your 8-cost Roshinante, your Cavendish. You're not going to whiff. You're never going to whiff with these events in any deck, really. You'd have to be terribly unlucky to find like all 2Ks. But this being able to search some of these crazy unsearchable cards is incredible for Bonney. I do think so. Next up, Lucci. I think this is more of a mixed bag. Obviously, searchable Moria, searchable Jack is crazy. And you got these other cards here that have been in and out of lists. Kaido's pretty popular at the moment because of Blackbeard. Sabo was popular, but being unsearchable, costing you a card, it's not too crazy, but it is really good against Doflamingo. So if you're struggling with Doflamingo, you can now search Sabo. Isho, great in the matchups he's good for, great into things like Nami, things like Black Yellow Luffy. Pretty garbage a lot of the time though. Into Doflamingo, this is the deadest card in the world. But now you can search it, so you can feasibly run 1. Before, with these cards, people do run 1, but it's really inconsistent on whether you find them when in the matchups you need them. But now with these searches, These cards get a lot better. These tech cards get way more value. Same thing with Tenkos Kuzan. He's always been unsearchable, famously so. Former Navy. Why? Well, I know why. It's because of the law. But this being searchable gives it a lot more validity to include in your deck. Because this card is crazy. Don't get me wrong, this card is crazy. This removes a 6 cost in Lucci on play. And then if it sticks around, which it quite probably does, it just makes all your removals so easy for the rest of the game. Which is just kind of wild. We also have Stussy here. Not the craziest card, but it was always searchable with Spandam. But it's another card you can search off this event, which is pretty good. And we've also got 8 cost Moria, of course. We know how broken this and Jack are. Being able to search for them is going to be wild. Your Lucci opponents are going to consistently find probably one more Moria than they were before, which is scary to think about. And of course, in Lucci, it doesn't just search boss monsters. This finds Rebecca, this finds Sabo, this finds Lucci, finds all sorts of stuff, right? Zombie Luffy, pretty much the entire deck, again, other than your 1s, 2s, and 3s. And just grab. Unfortunately, this can't grab like your Ice Age or your Tempest Kick. If this could grab those, I think it would push it over the edge. But I think this is still going to be an interesting card in Lucci, and I'm interested to see how deck builders approach Lucci with this card. Will it be good? Will it not? I'm excited to find out. So I think Shanks is going to be another really great recipient of this. Recently, we've seen Shanks transition from more a red hair pirate focus build to just a generic red good cards box, in a similar way to we saw purple Luffy in the past. This is going to make that build just that one bit more consistent. Especially, I think a card that benefits a lot from this is Gold Roger. Because you don't want to play a ton of Gold Rogers in your deck, because it's obviously terrible early, and you don't typically need more than 1 per game. People are playing this card at like 1, maybe 2 counts, and just being that low count is going to make it that bit more consistent to find your Roger and get it in those games where you really need it. And I think if you are playing this event in Shanks, you should absolutely include 1 Roger, because you have way more chances to find it now, right? Before, it was inconsistent. Now, it's just going to be less so. There's also a ton of unsearchable targets this can get. Silver's Rayleigh is a former Roger Pirates. You can't find this. And the same with the blocker Rayleigh. He is just Roger Pirates. There's no searcher that's grabbing this. These are great. You can grab those. Dragon, completely unsearchable in this deck. Same with Marco. All these cards, being able to find them more consistently is going to make your curve out way smoother. You have one of these events in your opening hand, it's just great, because like a deck like Shanks, right, you're not doing anything in the opening turns. You're maybe holding a couple Don up for Gum Gum Redhawk. You're maybe playing like a Hongo or a Building Snake. But before your 5 Don turn, your plays are very limited. Like, there's nothing crazy you're doing on 1, 2, 3, or 4. Once you get to 5, you're looking to play out Ace, you're looking to play out Marco. This event's going to be less good, but you can always trash this with a Rayleigh. You can trash it with a 0 cost. It's not the end of the world. You can trash it to save a Marco because it's an event, right? I think this event is going to be really nice for Shanks. Make his good cards build that's looking a bit like this. A whole lot more consistent. I think one thing to consider, if you were going to play this, is you'd probably want to find a 2k with a cost of 4 or more, because being able to search a 2k off these events is also really nice. It's not too crazy, but I think it will be important. Next up, I just want to talk about some of the Roger leaders, right? Red Purple Luffy. His curve is a bit more ironed in, unfortunately. You want to do Zoroduro or Bon Clay into something on 7, or 8. If you can get straight to 8, amazing. But usually you're going to be playing out Zoroduro or Bon Clay, then one more card, either a Yasop or a Kid or something like that, and then you're going to be playing boss monsters. I'm not sure if this fits into Red Purple Luffy, but if you can find the room, maybe just 1 or 2 copies of this could be really nice. You can ditch it with Gum Gum Giant, so it's not a brick in hand, truly. And this will make your late game just that bit more consistent, finding your Nika, finding your Whitebeards, finding your Rush Luffys, anything else you're playing, Charlotte Linlin. I think it's going to be really cool in Red Purple Luffy, if you can find the time to play it. I'm not confident on this one. One I am more confident on is Marco. Sanji combos are like the do or die for this deck. If you see your Sanji combos, you're laughing. If you don't, not great. And while some of the stuff in this deck is Whitebeard and is searchable, I'm thinking Rush Ace. I'm thinking the 7-cost Newgate that taps. Even 9-cost Newgate if you want to play that one. Sanji is not. Sanji is completely unsearchable. You've just got to draw him. And whilst that is easier with Marco because you're effectively drawing 2 cards a turn, as long as you can use your leader effect, having this in the early game is really good. This is like an alternative to the Ivankov, is how I'm seeing it. The Ivankov combo is still very powerful, and it might still be the better way to build Marco. I think having reliable search for your Sanji combos is going to be invaluable. Calgara, we finally have searchable Noland, right? That's interesting. So one of the problems with this deck was the inconsistency on Noland. Noland, if you're not aware, he says if you have a Calgara character on the board, Calgara is a 6/8 vanilla, then he heals a life just for free. He's a 5-cost character that heals a life. That's wild. That is wild. But he was Jaya Botanist, so you couldn't find him. Now you can. And you can obviously search all the other stuff in your deck. Your Calgara, your Wipers, your Ohm Holy. Not the Holy, but the Ohm. I think this... I don't know if this is going to resurrect Calgara. He is a little flimsy still. But having that extra consistency could be pretty nice for a deck like this. I also think Perona is a really nice beneficiary of this. Obviously, it grabs Moria. We know about that. But you can also grab things like Borsellino, more searches for Ryuma. We already have a lot. We have all the Wano guys, right? But Ryuma is like the only card in the deck that matters. If the matchups where you don't see multiple Ryumas, the deck feels shockingly bad. The matchups where you see those Ryumas on curve, much easier to win the game. Much easier. This can also grab other unsearchable cards. Playing 5-cost Sabo. I know this deck does tend to like to play 8-cost Sabo. Any other black top end you're playing. 9-cost Zoro. A lot of people were running Zoro at like 3 or 4 in Perona. But now I think you could easily just run 2 and be fine because you have a good reliable search. The matchups you need the Zoro, they're quite slow matchups. You know, your Nami, your Enel. They're not putting a ton of pressure on early, right? Enel's maybe attacking you a couple times. Nami's not attacking you at all. So I think having just 2 and being able to search those events in combination, especially with the You Can Be My Samurai, if we still play that, I think it would be pretty interesting how we could approach Perona. There's probably a ton of other cards you can now play in Perona. I'm thinking maybe the 10-cost Kuzang could be pretty nice. Then that lets your leader effect just rest at 9, which is pretty crazy. Not sure how I feel about that. Then if you've got like a Brook on the board or something else that KOs when attacking, you could rest something and then KO something massive. I don't know. Interesting to think about. I think multicolor leaders especially are going to get a big buff from this because they typically find it a little harder to play around one archetype. Sometimes you have great synergy between the 2 colors. For example, in Marco, you've got quite a lot of blue Whitebeard cards you can play. A lot of them aren't good, but, you know, it is what it is. Another good example of that is Red Green Law. Red Green Law loves to play a lot of Supernova cards. Supernova and Straw Hat, they're playing both green and red of both, but that's fine. But for a lot of these multicolor leader decks, there's not really a great overlap, and this will just allow a lot more innovative deck building with what combos of archetypes you decide to put together, while still having it remain consistent. So let me know what you think. I think these cards are going to be crazy. I'm really excited to see how this changes the game. I do think the game is fundamentally going to change, at least the deck building aspect. And I'm here for it. I know a lot of people are worried, but, you know, I think change can always be good. And if these cards are bad, you know, they can always get banned in the future. It's no problem. So let me know what you think. Which decks did I miss? I'm sure there's tons of decks that also gain massive buffs from this I haven't considered. I just wanted to go over some of the top meta decks, and then a small highlight of some of those rogue decks could benefit quite a lot from this. I'm really intrigued to see if this brings any truly rogue leaders back. Like, could this make something like green-yellow Yamato back better? You have the Fortress build of that, right? Would that make that more consistent? I don't know, probably not, but I think there's a ton of rogue leaders out there. Every leader has its biggest fan. If you're a super fan of a rogue deck and you think these events are going to make your deck way better, let me know. I'm really interested to hear that. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your time. If you've enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing. We have daily videos, every day something new. informational videos like this. We've got gameplay, all sorts. Drop a sub, it's greatly appreciated. Let me know your thoughts on these events. Are they going to be good for the game? Are they going to be bad for the game? Is it so over, or are we so back? Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.